Hello, thanks for joining us. This is Metric Insights, and today's presentation is a BI portal, the missing ingredient to your BI strategy. I'm Marius Moscovici, and I have with me Mike Smitherman. Today, we're going to talk about why BI is a mess. We're going to talk about the need for a BI portal. Then we're going to show you a demo of Metric Insights so you can see what our portal looks like, and then move on. So let's talk about why business intelligence environments have become a mess. So I want you to think about your Tableau environment. And I don't know where you are with your journey. You may be early on, or maybe you have lots of content. But imagine that you've got, hundreds of or thousands of different pieces of Tableau content out there that your analysts have diligently been creating. And there's a user that comes into one of your analysts and says, I really need this analysis done here. And I want to, can you please do it for me? And now, if your analyst is diligent, probably the first thing they're going to do is he or she is going to go look and see, is that already exists? Is there a dashboard already that answers that question? And so she looks, and sure enough, there's a dashboard there, but it's not exactly what she needs. It's got 80% of what this particular business user is looking for, but there are just some additional things that this user is looking for, some definitions, maybe a term, and how something is calculated is a little bit different. There'll be some changes that will be required. So now this analyst has a dilemma. Right? She either has to go and look and see, the maybe 24 people that have used this dashboard over the last 6 or 9 months or year and determine, go talk to them or convene some kind of email survey or figure out, can I make these changes? And will it be all right if I change the definitions, or is that going to cause a problem in the way that you're using the dashboard? So that's path one. Or path two is, now let's just take the dashboard, makes a copy, makes the changes, and creates a new version that's just addressing that particular new use case that's been created. So the bad news is 100 out of 100 times, path B is what happens. Simply because everyone's busy. It's really hard to get all the users in the one room and to get them to weigh in and to get their feedback. And so invariably, you end up making copies of things. And now if you take that and you multiply that out over all the analysts that you have in your organization, and you multiply that out over months and years of time, you can easily see that even in the best organizations with the most well-intentioned analysts, you're going to create a mess. You're going to create duplicative content. You're going to have obsolete content. And for the user that's just trying to go and find the answer to their question, it becomes very difficult. They don't know which version is the right one, which is the one that gives them the truth, the right answer. And this problem is actually exacerbated because if you're like most organizations, Tableau is not the only tool you use. You may have other legacy BI tools in your enterprise. There may be BI tools that were purchased by other departments. There are probably SaaS products out there that the users are using. And a user has to think and go, well, geez, I know this is information from SAP. Do I go into SAP to find that information? Is it in Salesforce, or is it in my Tableau system? And then once I go into Tableau, which project is it in? Which site is it in? It's just a maze that they have to navigate simply to get to the content that's relevant. And for most business users, the reality is that they have maybe 1 or 2 minutes a day to spend on analytics. And they will not navigate this maze. They will just say, you know what, forget about it. I'm not going to look at this. I'm just going to make my decision here without looking at that dashboard because I just don't have time to find the information. And that is a fundamental problem because that means that your users are overwhelmed. There's too many reports, too many dashboards, too many prompts and filters, too many ways in which they've got to go and look to find the information, especially relative to the very little time that they have available to them. So with these multiple tools, with the too much content, they don't end up using the information, or worse, they just lose trust because they say, well, I don't know where to look. I don't know which of these dashboards I can trust and which has some definition that's wonky and isn't what I really need. And so therefore, I'm not going to use any of them. I just don't trust what's there. I'm just going to make my decision off of gut. If they do that, then they're not going to be using the BI tools. You're going to see low usage of, if you look at your licensing utilization, of your platform utilization. We find Some of our customers, it's not common to find 50% or less of the licenses that they purchase for the Tableau are actually actively being used by users. And it's not that the Tableau content out there is not useful. It's not that their analytics are not powerful or the data is not good. It's that the issues that we just talked about create too many barriers, too many bumps in the road that make it impossible for the users to actually consume the content in the limited time that they have. And that means that the ROI that you're generating for Tableau, but more broadly for your entire BI stack, is not where it needs to be. It's not generating a high level of ROI because you don't have the engagement. People are not using the value of analytics to make decisions. So how does the BI portal clean up this mess? Well, there are 4 pillars, 4 vectors that can be used to address this issue with the BI portal. First of all, a BI portal catalogs everything in one place. So as a user, I don't have to think about, is this information in Tableau? Is it in Salesforce? Which Tableau project is it in? No, I go one place, I search for the content, I find it no matter where it is. If I need to, I can even discover it if it's something I don't have access to, but it was made discoverable. So it's all in one place. Second, a BI portal allows you to distribute content to users. So it's not enough to make content available to users in a single pane of glass behind which they can find it. Yes, that's essential. It's necessary. You need to have that. But the second step is to say, how do you take that content and make it accessible to that user by pushing it to them? Get it to them where they live, in email, send it to them in Slack, send it to them in whatever format they want to consume that content, so that in a minute or two a day, they can get up to speed with all of their analytics. And do that no matter what tools they're using. So if they're not exclusively a Tableau user, if they're using MicroStrategy or Power BI or Qlik or anything else, make it possible for them to get that content delivered to them. A BI portal allows that to happen. So now there's no reason why I wouldn't look at that analytic, because I can get out of bed, pop open my phone, take a look at my email, and then by swiping up and looking at my email digest, I'm immediately in the know on all those key reports that I like to look at every day. Single email. The third key way in which a BI portal helps clean up the mess is it uncovers the critical changes in the data. So think for a moment about a dashboard, maybe a really compelling dashboard that you created for your users. Well, initially, when they look at it, they're probably going to get a lot of value because they're going to see trends in the data they didn't realize were there. And that's fantastic. But then on the second, on the third, on the fourth, or the 100th view of that data, that value isn't there anymore because they already understand the fundamental relationship in the data. At that point, they're getting value out of that dashboard if you are showing them what has changed in the data. And if you have a dashboard with tons of filters, if you've got lots of slicing to do in the data, then that value is hidden from them because maybe the high level number is fine, maybe that's not changing, but maybe there's a particular slice of the data, a particular filter combination where there's an anomaly that requires their attention. So the BI portal can reach into the data, and it can not only present you the high level information, but it can tell you, hey, Tableau user, here's the analytic that you need to look at today because there's an anomaly here. And not only that, but there's an anomaly with this particular slice of the data, this particular filter combination. So thereby, I've decluttered the space. I know which dashboard I should look at. I know which filter combination I should look at. And as a user, all that searching time, all that wasted time is eliminated. And I'm able to look and find the thing that I need to take that requires me to take action. And finally, this is the governance element. The BI portal allows you to monitor usage and manage costs. So this is not just about being able to say, am I taking full advantage of my Tableau licensing? Do I have the right amount of licensing? And all my users that I'm paying for license, are they actively using it? But it's also looking at the cost that your BI team spends in building out that content. Most organizations have very expensive BI teams that are spending time building dashboards. And oftentimes, if they look at those dashboards 6 or 9 months down the line, after they've been built, they'd be surprised to find that they're really getting very little usage. So with a portal, you can look at the usage analytics in a very proactive way across all of the content, all the BI tool visualizations you've created, and be very proactive in how that gets promoted. So you can promote it to users who might not know about it because they haven't used it. You can go out there and identify what content needs to be deprecated or pruned. You can certify content to bubble it up in promotion. You can use a number of different tools to make sure that you are managing your BI spend in a really effective way and getting all the bang that you can out of a very expensive buck you're spending in your BI infrastructure. So, what does Metric Insights do? As a portal, it essentially takes all the different sources that you have on your left, that you see on the left-hand side. So it can be BI tools, it can be analytics in databases, it can be analytics that are in SaaS products. It can take the data and the images, and it combines it all, and it does three key things. First, it organizes everything in one place. One organizational structure, one set of tags, one way to find all the content, irrespective of where it comes from. Make sure for you to know, can it be trusted, can it be certified? One place to add documentation to all that information. Secondly, it enriches that information. So we can reach into the data behind key visualizations or behind data that's in databases, bubble up those anomalies and push them out to users so that they know what are the exceptions, what are the things that they need to look at. And do it in a way that's such that those anomalies are very, very tailored for them. It's just the slice of the information that they care about that they're looking at. And third, we do distribution. So it's not just enough to be able to say, here's the anomalies, but pushing that information out, Slack, email, wherever it is, getting that to people so that they can look at it at a glance, whether it's anomalous or not, right there at their fingertips. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Mike, who's going to show you how this works in action.
Yeah, thanks, Marius. So I'm going to switch across here to the Metric Insights platform and take you through sort of those three areas that Marius mentioned. And the first is the concept of organization of content. So what we have here is an instance of Metric Insights that is obviously connected into Tableau, and we'll look at some examples of that. But really, it's about connecting to not just Tableau, but any source of what I would term BI in the organization. And that can be reports that exist in your operational systems. So every platform out there has some sort of reporting capabilities. It could be documentation, it could be PDFs, it could be spreadsheets. And as Marius said, it's not uncommon to see multiple BI tools as well. And so what you're looking at here is the Metric Insights catalog. And each of these tiles that you can see on the screen is pulling a piece of content or publishing a piece of content that we want to make available to users. And obviously that's tiles that are publishing workbooks from Tableau. But you'll also see tiles that, again, are publishing documents and spreadsheets, or we'll get onto this in a minute, metrics. And for the user, they shouldn't have to really understand where this content is coming from, how it's organized. Essentially, by publishing a tile from a tool like Tableau, they can get access to that tile. When they click on it, they can see a preview of what that piece of content looks like. And this is an up-to-date preview that gets refreshed every time the dashboard updates. They get the metadata around this piece of content. So who owns it? What's it called? When was it last updated? And they can drill into that tile and essentially get the experience of accessing the live Tableau dashboard, in this case, embedded within the Metric Insights portal. And so not only did I not have to understand where that tile or where that piece of content was, but we also then wrap some consistent functionality around this piece of content for the users. And that's in terms of things like documentation. So Marius mentioned this, so maybe you've got release notes or help documents or definitions that you want to publish with the content. We can attach that to it within the portal. Distribution and sharing of content that we'll touch on in a minute. Collaboration. So the ability as a publisher to add expert commentary and analysis to the content, or enable user commentary where users can have a discussion around what they're seeing and follow news threads and conversations on the content. And then finally, the ability to have a consistent way of bookmarking slices of data that I might be interested in, or pre-filtering content for users so that they know exactly, or they're being brought to exactly the slice of data that's relevant to them. So regardless of the Tableau dashboard that they might be accessing, or if we go back to the homepage here, the content coming from another system or another platform, users can get that consistent way of interacting with dashboards and reports in your organization. Another type of tile here is the concept of a metric tile, and they're the ones that you see with numbers on. So Marius mentioned this importance of being able to bubble up the key performance indicators that users are interested in as sort of early indicators of what's happening and where they should focus their attention. And with Metric Insights, we can take those metrics and we can publish them directly within the portal. And so this is a metric that's actually coming from that Tableau dashboard that we were just looking at. It's a daily sales metric across the different regions of our organization. And what Metric Insights is doing is tracking this time series on behalf of the users. So as we pull in this information, we're essentially also analyzing how it's changing over time. We're looking for highs and lows in the data. We're running statistical analysis automatically against these time series to ultimately look for outliers in the data that might be an indication that there's a particular dashboard or report that people should look at in more detail. And so we can start to alert users out of the 50, 100 dashboards that they might have access to. Hey, here's a metric that we found something unusual with, and here's the detailed workbooks and dashboards that contain this metric, and you might want to go and look at those in more detail. And we do this automated statistical analysis. Obviously, users can come in and set up their own alert rules and alert criteria as well if they want to be notified of things going on. So the idea is that you can take all that content, you can organize it in a consistent category structure down the left-hand side here that, regardless of source and of the content, it all exists in a single category. You can certify this content as well. So for content that has been created, that's been through testing and QA, you can understand that it's got a stamp of approval and who certified it and who's responsible for it. For users who are responsible for certification, you can give them a process and a workflow that allows them to go through and certify content that they're responsible for. And you can provide this environment where users can easily come in and out of all the content that they have access to, be able to search across that catalog. We recommend common search terms that get looked at and ultimately bring back a ranked set of results for the content that this user is looking for, again, regardless of source that it might have come from. So organization is the first piece of this, and making sure that users have one place to come and find content within the organization. The second piece is really distribution of that content as well across all these different areas. And that typically falls into sort of two paradigms. The pushing of content to different users as a publisher of content, but then also the self-service or subscription to the content that I might be interested in. I can push content to users simply by dragging these tiles into a folder, a logical use case, if you like, of different content that a user might be interested in. I can then burst that content, even though it may be coming from different sources or different areas, out to users on a particular schedule to a particular location. So obviously maybe email, but Marius mentioned, integrating it maybe into a Slack channel or Microsoft Teams or pushing it out to a drive somewhere. I can take that content, distribute it, customize how it goes out, and then ultimately subscribe different users to it. And not only am I sending that content out to users, I'm also ensuring that using that sort of bookmarking functionality I touched on, that we're pre-filtering this content to what a user is interested in and ensuring that they're getting the slice of the dashboard that's relevant to them. And so we can burst that content out and we can ensure that, again, when a user receives the email, if I come through to an example here, that they're receiving the content that is relevant to them. And again, if it's dimensioned in a particular way, making sure it's pre-filtered to, say, in this case, their region, taking an image that is relevant to them. And if it's something they want to look at in more detail, they can click on it and look at it directly within the portal. So pushing content out to users, but also enabling users to self-subscribe to that content as well through the concept of things like favorites digests. So dragging tiles from my catalog into a personal set of favorites that is relevant to me, that may be changing over time. I can curate my own favorites folder. When we do that, a user can then start to receive a digest email that essentially summarizes what's changing within their favorites. So every day, send me an email like this that perhaps says, you know, these are the metrics that have moved the most, or these are the metrics that have generated alerts or anomalies across the different data sources. And then if a dashboard updated, you know, here's a view of what that dashboard looks like, again, pre-filtered maybe to the slice of data that's relevant to me. And again, if it's something that I want to go and look at in more detail, being able to click on that and go back into it and perform my analysis. So by using the favorites, we can ensure that we're focusing users again on the right content at the right time. The final piece then is about ensuring, you know, as we're pushing content out, as we're alerting users to issues, as users are consuming content through the portal, we can also present this content in very curated ways. And so, you know, oftentimes users don't have the time to come in and search through a catalog of content all the time, or even if they're receiving it in their email, they may, you know, have questions straight away that they want to get access to. And so we can mash up content from the catalog into a very curated experience for a particular type of user. So for example, we may have, you know, sales managers within this particular organization. They're responsible for different regions. Well, let's take the content from the portal that they're most interested in. Let's show them the metrics that are relevant to them. Let's highlight any exceptions that we're finding in the data that may be interesting to them. And let's tie that to any Tableau workbooks or dashboards that they look at all the time. So on a single pane, users can come in, they get, you know, the most common content that they're interested in a single place. And if they want to go and look at other things, they can obviously go across to the catalog and search for other content. So whether that's the detailed dashboards, whether that's summarizing metrics from those dashboards for those particular types of users, and allowing them to, if they see an issue with a particular metric, drill into that and analyze it in more detail and take them straight to that particular dashboard and that slice of data. That ensures that, again, we're making it as simple as possible for users to consume this information. And then the final piece Marius spoke about was this concept of usage as well, which is sort of critical to keeping a relevant set of content for your users that they can engage with and find useful. And so through the portal, we're also tracking who's looking at what, and that's, you know, who's accessing the dashboard, whether it's in the portal or Tableau directly. That's who's consuming it via email or in alerts. We can start to get this engagement or views number, which shows, you know, what's the most popular content, what's increasing in popularity, what's going unused, what's decreasing in popularity. If I publish a particular dashboard, how are users engaging with that dashboard after I publish it over, in this case, 60 days? who's coming in and looking at often, who's drifting to the outside because they only looked at it once. And I can understand those usage paradigms very easily. And with that, I can keep a very clean and relevant portal environment for my users. So again, to summarize, it's all about keeping users engaged with the data, making sure they can find it easily, making sure they're not ignoring data because they don't know it exists, and giving them a very curated experience for the content that they might be interested in.
Thank you, everyone.